Mr. Stefan TOLZ, Program Director of ADAMI Media Prize. Welcome to our Mediabox platform. On the occasion of the Parliamentary Assembly plenary session, you had a chance to make an introduction on the ADAMI Media Prize. Let's start with that. If we know well, it's a prize for cultural diversity in Eastern Europe. So, first of all, which countries are included in the prize, and what is the main objective and idea to give a prize for cultural diversity to the Eastern Europe states?
Well, the ADAMI Media Prize has been funded last year for the first time, and it is a prize that is for the countries of the Eastern Partnership of the European Union. So these are 6 countries. It's Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. And it's a prize for the audiovisual media, because we are trying to give an incentive for broadcasters in these countries to broadcast films of their own filmmakers if they are dealing with an issue of ethnic minorities, of integration, of diversity. So that we want to encourage broadcasters in these countries to work together with civil society in the influence that the media has, of course, the mass media like the broadcasters, but also the internet, that they have to deal carefully with some issues if you are dealing with minority issues or if you are dealing with issues between different ethnic groups. As we all know, these countries have problems with frozen conflicts, they have a lot of minorities. All of that is kind of a heritage from the Soviet time of the Soviet Union. And now there has to be dealt with these problems. And we see with conflicts like, for example, the conflict of Karabakh between Armenia and Azerbaijan, that I think the best idea is through the media to slowly try for people to understand ethnic minority issues and to understand what a richness it is to have a cultural diversity. And it's not a danger, but it's a good chance for these countries for the future.
And also, if we know well, there are so many categories, not only films, but also websites. Or could you give some examples and details on these categories, please?
Sure. We have 6 categories. These are the same 6 categories that also the Civis Media Prize for the EU has.
Which is the biggest media prize in Europe.
In Europe. The biggest media prize for integration and cultural diversity in Europe is the Civis Prize. And we are doing kind of the same idea in this eastern part of Europe and the Caucasus. And so the 3 categories that we have for TV. One of them is for fiction and entertainment. That's meaning there are also TV shows, also cartoons can participate, and of course detective movies or all kind of movies that deal with an issue of diversity. It doesn't always have to be a problem or a conflict. It can be a very interesting, funny film. It can be a comedy that is dealing with different ethnic actors, and that can really work on the idea of a cultural diverse society. The second category is the category of documentary film and reportage. The third one is a category for news programs, where we especially want to encourage people that only make very short news programs, which are aired at the public broadcasters or at the private broadcasters in these 6 countries, to participate, because they are not used to film festivals. They usually don't get the exposure that film directors get, and this is why we have this third category, especially for journalists that are only making short pieces. Then we have a category for students, where all kind of genres can participate, whether it's documentary or fiction, but the students up till the age of 28 can participate. And then we have, in the end, 2 categories for online, and these 2 categories are for websites. So if a website, for example, of an NGO or of an initiative is dealing with, in a very, very original way, with cultural diversity and migration, then we want to give this website a prize. And the last category is online video, which means that somebody just made a video maybe for himself, or maybe a journalist, but he didn't find a broadcaster to broadcast it. He put it himself on maybe YouTube or on Vimeo or on another portal, but it must be publicly available. And so we have one prize for this online video category.
Do we have already nominees for 2016? What's the agenda of the ADAMI Media Prize for this year?
We just finished yesterday. The deadline was for entries, so just now we know that that we have more than 150 entries. Last year we didn't make the 100, we had 97, so we increased this year, which we are very happy about. And we will have the jury session in 2 weeks' time in the city of Batumi, who supported us also, who is also a sponsor by supporting our media prize. We will have the jury sessions there at the Black Sea for 1 week. And at this jury session, which is a very important part for us, that we have broadcasters from Western European countries and Eastern European countries to talk with each other and to learn from each other what kind of programs you do, how do you work with those. It's not only about watching these films, but about discussing it and about discussing formats in different TV stations, in different cultures, in the Eastern Europe area. And so this is the idea of the jury session. And after the jury session, we will announce who will be the nominees. So this will be at the beginning of November. And at the end of November, the 24th of November, we will have the award ceremony, the gala, in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, and it will be live broadcasted by the Georgian television, the Ukrainian television, the Moldovan television, and we are in talks with other televisions. So it will be an international broadcast, which is a big thing for us, for such a young prize, to have this live broadcast. And we have the patronship of the representative for the freedom of the media of the OBSE, and the patronship for the gala of the Secretary General of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Yeah.
This is also important because you have a really good cooperation and coordination, such a partnership with the international organizations. So what's the role of the Council of Europe in that point? What kind of partnership? So what's the next step, next project with Council of Europe then?
Yes, so I think we invited members of the Council of Europe last year to the gala so that they could see what it is. And we had first talks. So the first step now in cooperation is the patronship, and by inviting members and people coming there. And also that we had the possibility to show it today. The last year's winners, 2 parliamentarians here in Strasbourg, already is first step of a partnership which I hope will continue. I really would love to have this as a regular thing, that the ADAMI Prize winners once a year might be screened in Strasbourg. We yesterday had a nice screening in the Odyssey Cinema in Strasbourg, which is one of the oldest cinemas in the world, which I didn't know, which was really interesting for the filmmakers, because it is also an incentive to take part in this prize, that people know, okay, in case they might be winners, they might be invited, they might be coming to Strasbourg, they might be invited to the Council of Europe, we are visiting Arte. So this is an incentive. And of course, it is it gives people that only make a 1 or 2 minute film an importance suddenly, because they were really dealing in a very, very creative way, in a very professional way, with a very important issue about minorities. And this is why I think it's so important to have this cooperation, also hopefully in the future with the Council of Europe.
Well, before finishing, I would like to ask you what does it mean? So, because when we say cultural diversity, especially Council of Europe also works on that to improve the capacity of the member states to involve on cultural diversity. What does it mean exactly as a perspective of the ADAMI Media Prize?
I think what is very important is that our prize, and especially also me, I'm not representing any NGO. I'm not somebody who is coming from the theoretical part, and I'm not a politician. I'm not a journalist. I'm really coming from cinema. I'm coming from a very, very direct, practical thing. We are working. We're making films. And films are making emotions for the mass media, for many people. So it's not about making reports. It's really now that you now have people that are working also with me and that are participating in this prize, that are dealing with mass media. They are making the films that millions of people see. And so this is, of course, important for the future. And this is why I think it's so important to involve the knowledge and the politics and the idea of the Council of Europe, especially on human rights and on all these, and of course on minorities and on freedom of the media, to involve these ideas with this prize and to connect it with this prize, because it's not something in a corner, like minorities are only being kind of pushed aside. We want to have it in the media of these 6 countries at a very prominent place.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. TOLZ.
Welcome.